Welcome to Demystifying the Metaphysical, here to help you find more compassion in your life. Today we're going to discuss the forehead. We're going to look at the shape, protrusions, indentations, and lines on the forehead and what they mean. If you haven't already, check out the face reading basics video for a general overview on face reading. Video link on the top right. Our forehead shows us how we process thoughts, our capacity to learn, and the way we prefer to interact with others. If you have a prominent forehead, then you most likely prefer to analyze, rationalize, and make pros and cons lists before you make a decision rather than going with your feelings or intuition. So are you more book smart or street smart? As we'll see later in the video, people with high foreheads are book smart, while people with low and wide foreheads are street smart. Let's first start with the round forehead. This is when the forehead is convex. It is circular in shape and forms a small hill at the top of the head. There are different variations to a round forehead. The person on the left has a smooth, round forehead where the curve is gentle. And while the person on the right also has a rounded forehead, hers protrudes slightly towards the top where the blue arrow is pointing. A smooth and round forehead, like what we see on the person on the left, shows someone who is adaptable, independent, innovative, and needs constant stimulation as they can get bored easily. A person with a forehead that protrudes has a lot of mental energy. They love to learn and are determined. Let's take a closer look at a forehead that protrudes. If we divide the forehead horizontally into 3 sections and look to see which section is the most prominent, we can tell which area the person prefers mental activity in. Looking at the person on the left, his forehead protrudes the most in the top section of his forehead, which represents our imagination. When this area is the most prominent, not only will the person be creative, but they will also likely have inherited talents from their ancestors. This person is also likely to be more spiritual. When the middle section is the most prominent, like what we see on the person on the right, this is a sign of a person with excellent memory and prefers to use logic and reason in their approach to life. And when the bottom region of the forehead is the most prominent, like what we see on the person on the right, this is a sign of someone who is very perceptive, practical, and organized. They are excellent planners. Now let's take a look at the height of the forehead. The height is measured by the distance between the hairline and the top of the eyebrows. When this area is low, like what we see on the person on the left, the person learns best from experience. People with low foreheads are cautious. They don't like to be rushed into a decision. They need time to think things through, and once they've made up their mind, it's not likely they'll change it. People with high foreheads are better in academics. They're book smart, as they're more interested in intellectual challenges. People with high foreheads also tend to be more philosophical and forward-looking. The width of the forehead is measured across from temple to temple. People with a lower hairline, meaning a hairline that comes closer to the eyebrow, tends to have a narrower forehead. Find out what your hairline tells you. Video link on the top right or description below. Both of these people don't have a very high forehead, and the person on the left has a much narrower forehead than the person on the right. People with narrow foreheads are detail-oriented. They like to go deep into a few subjects rather than being a jack of all trades. They're also adaptable, will often conform to society norms, and prefers working behind the scenes. While people with wide foreheads, like what we see on the person on the right, are open-minded. They have lots of interests and prefer to see the big picture. They prefer to be in charge and lead others. They're often viewed as being street smart, as they're better at learning things through life experiences. In order to recognize a straight forehead, let's do a comparison between a straight and round forehead. Notice how the straight forehead on the person on the left is vertical. It goes straight up from the eyebrows to the hairline. And as we saw earlier, the round forehead curves outwards. People with straight foreheads are individualistic and analytical. They pave their own path in life and don't need the approval of others. Two other types of forehead is one that slopes backwards from the eyebrow towards the hairline, like what we see on the person on the left. People with this type of forehead make great entrepreneurs, as they are quick thinkers with creative solutions. They're also multitaskers who prefer working in a team environment because they like to bounce ideas off of others. A concave forehead is the opposite of a round forehead. It curves inwards like what we see on the person on the right. People with this type of forehead are similar to that of a person with a narrow forehead. They prefer to focus on a few interests that they're passionate about. People with concave foreheads are also hard workers who prefer to work independently. Let's take a look at the indentations on the forehead. Take a look at the vertical separation down the middle of the forehead on these two people where the blue dotted lines are. Let me remove the lines so that you can see the ever so slight dip in the middle of their forehead. When a person has a vertical dip down the center of their forehead, the two sides of the family they come from have very different ways of thinking. Maybe one side of the family is conservative and religious, while the other side are hippies. Some people with this indentation may find it hard to balance the teachings from the two sides of the families. Another indentation we often see on the forehead is by the temple area where the yellow arrows are pointing. Notice how it dips inwards from each side of the forehead. This could be a sign that the person is very spiritual and/or they like to be in an altered state of mind as opposed to living in the present. Now let's take a look at the different wrinkles we see on the forehead. Clear, unbroken horizontal lines across the forehead of up to 3 lines, like what we see on the person on the left, shows a person who is popular and has clear and concise thinking. And people with shorter and/or broken lines, like what we see on the person on the right, might have a hard time focusing as they allow themselves to be pulled in different directions. Deep horizontal lines in general could also be a sign of impressionable life experiences between the ages of 15 through 30. A vertical line between the eyebrows is called the hanging needle. The longer and deeper this line, the more likely the following characteristics will hold true. There are a few different interpretations for this line. The line could represent great powers of concentration and focus. It could also show a sense of frustration or temper, or the person can feel that they're not as assertive as they would like to be in life. When the line is off-centered, leaning more towards the left eyebrow, the feelings are related to their domestic or family life. And when the line is off-centered, leaning towards the right eyebrow, then these feelings are related to their work or career. Two vertical lines on the forehead between the eyebrows could also have a few interpretations. This could be a sign of impatience, tension, or someone who is fair and impartial. 3 vertical trident-like lines, like what we see on the person on the left, is a sign of good fortune. This person is logical, thoughtful, and persistent. The trident-like lines is made up of 2 curved lines that bracket a vertical line in the middle. This is different from the vertical lines we see on the person on the right. The vertical line on the person on the right is more of a deep hanging needle down the center of the forehead that slants towards the right side of the face. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to share, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.